Yes, yes, yes. How we doing? How we doing tonight? How we doing tonight? So you rocking the Be Safe t-shirt, you know? Gotta try and sit. I never do these live streams on camera. Never do them. But we're gonna try that tonight. I'm gonna see how it looks. I'm worried about StreamYard, right? Before we get into this, what we're gonna talk about. StreamYard doesn't give the best quality in terms of when you're streaming. So I'm hoping this comes out all right. I'm hoping it sounds good. Just give me one sec. Yeah, all right, that sounds fine. So, we got much to talk about. It's weird because I never do these face to face, so I'm looking at the phone. And bear in mind, we're limited by time because StreamYard eats the battery, and I have the mic plugged in where I normally put the charger. So I think I've got about 80% battery. So we're literally limited to about an hour, realistically, because the StreamYard absolutely drinks the battery. So let's get into this. Let's have a chat. And here's the problem, right? And I didn't take this into consideration. I can barely see any of these comments because I'm lucky when I'm using the laptop, I can actually read them because it's clear. But I'm far enough away from these that I can't see them, so I'm going to have to use them on my phone at the same time. So Dave Allen is punch drunk. Don't let him take any more hits to the head. He needs health, not a silly payday to finish him off. Yeah. Dave Allen, right? Dave Allen at this stage, I really can't work out why he's bothering to come back. In fact, I might not even bother reading them off thing. I might just read them off this because I've got it running to make sure it's all right. So I might just read them off this. So apologies for not bringing your comment on screen. It's a little bit too difficult to read because it's so small. I'm reading off a phone like so, and I'm far enough away from it. So I'm gonna be reading the questions just off this. And this has fuck all juice as well, so this might not be the easiest. But yeah, Dave Allen. Look, Dave Allen, why he came back is beyond me because he took that beating against David Price. And for me, that should have been the wake up call because he'd taken beatings in the past, but never to the level where he needed to go to care. Like, I think he was hospitalized. I think he even said he passed out on the way to the hospital. So for me, that should have been. Apologies. Yeah, I really didn't think this through. I just said, the hell with it. It seems a good idea to go live, but mics are falling off. But look, we're persevering. If this doesn't work out, I'll just do it the old try and test it way. But anyway, as I was saying, that to me was the wake up call for him. And then going to spar Usyk, the Usyk camp not going well, stuff like that. That should have been the wake up call for Dave Allen. Unfortunately, it wasn't. He's come back. He's already, like, I think when Lucas Brown pulled out of the fight with Babbage, I think he already said, look, I'm available and stuff like that. So to me, I don't want to see him take any more shots. He's already sounded a bit slurred. To me, it's just not worth it. I just don't understand. It's just not worth it anymore for Dave Allen. Why is he doing it? What does he feel like he wants more money? Is he because he's got a girlfriend now? Is he trying to impress her by saying, look, your boyfriend's a heavyweight boxer, he's this, he's that? I just don't get it. Personally, I just don't get it. But look, I can only advise him, and that's that. I see he was else in the chat. Shout out to Unrivaled Boxing. Big up to Mark. Great channel. I see him in the chat here. Who's back uploading regularly and doing live streams, which is good to know. So shout out to Mark Unrivaled every time. The Lost Soul, Evening G-Man, Evening to you. Ben McGrath, Evening all. Shout out to Chris as well. Evening brother. So is it a fake injury? It's dubious, definitely. The timing around it. Fighters have done that in the past. You look at David Haye when he was meant to fight Manuel Charr back in 2013, I think it was. He ended up getting in it. Well, he said himself, I think he admitted that it was a fake injury, but he said he was injured. He ended up signing to fight Tyson Fury. Fighters have done it in the past. I'm going to do a video on this after I finish here, and I'll upload that in the morning. But to me, it was always a head scratcher, this fight happened. Especially, the only thing I can think of is that when Dylan White agreed to fight Wallin, that maybe he was kind of unsure because the way the WBC had been, they've not really been, easy to work with, you know, for Dylan White anyway, in terms of, you know, him getting the title shot and kind of stuff happening. So maybe he kind of thought, you know what, I'm not getting my title shot anytime soon. Big-ish fight, you know, a decent enough test, and I get some money. And then WBC obviously said, no, the winner of Wilder Fury is going to fight Dylan White next. And now he's probably looking and thinking, do you know what? Otto Wallin is tricky. He's awkward. He's a southpaw. When's the last time Dylan White's fought a southpaw? Or if he has he ever fought anyone at the level of Otto Wallin? I don't think he has. If he fought a southpaw, you know, early on in his career, it was someone who wasn't that good. So for me, Dylan White's probably looking at this. Dylan White's probably looking at this and just thinking, do I need to fight this guy? Do I really need to? And he's probably thinking, I've got the guaranteed title shot. Why don't I just go take my title shot, and that's that then. Shout out to Daz Pierce for the £3. Appreciate that. Donating. He's got the bag, ain't he? Yeah. Be safe. You see that there? The t-shirt. I don't want to knock the mic off, but be safe. Raminating. But yeah, appreciate the super chat. Thanks for the little £3. Appreciate that. Gutted about White cancellation. I was really looking forward to this one. Otto had a good chance to pull the upset. He did. I mean, I wouldn't have picked Otto Wallin. I think Dylan White would have got the rub of the green. But I definitely think he would have been ahead early on. I think maybe Dylan White might have caught up to him. Maybe got him to the body, or, you know, hurt him to the body and slowed him down. But are they still going ahead with that card? Chantel Cameron is kind of talking like that fight's going, like that card's going ahead. So, look, it's not a great card. And I think that Frank Warren will have a field day with Eddie Hearn. Because if he still does that, like maybe if he moves to the copper box, might look a bit better. Because if they do it in the O2, it's going to be a fairly empty O2. And there's no real big fights. There's no big fights at all, really. I think that, oh boy, if Eddie Hearn keeps it going, keeps that card going at the main event, oh boy, I don't know how good that's going to go, or how that's going to look. But look, we'll wait and see. We'll watch the space. But there's no big fights at all on it. So for me, it's kind of like, what do you do if there's no real big fights? Like, do you keep it going, or what? Or do you move the venue? Because that's what I think he needs to do. Shout out to Punch Perfect Boxing. Big up to you. And I know what you asked me, and yeah, we're good to go for that. But yeah, shout out to Punch Perfect. Evening chat. Yeah, Jamie from Punch Perfect Boxing, great channel. I normally would click on it, but I can't because the thing is over there and I'm over here and the mic is all over the shape shop, so it makes it a little bit harder. I didn't take a few things into consideration when I set up this live stream. I don't do them as normal. But a big up to you, man. Thank you for the £4.50. Great channel. Just past 1,200, isn't it? You have, or in around that, bro. But yeah, no, great channel. Good content. Always good. And Blue Collar Sports TV, salute to G, man. Yeah, man, like, I didn't really, and Dell, obviously, great channel as well. I was watching a couple of his videos today. I can't highlight your comments, I'm afraid, because the mic is kind of sitting and hanging on by a thread, and it's a longer reach than it looks. So, apologies, I'm reading your just chats off here. Why is everyone saying Fury needs a long break? Why? They went on about inactivity. Now he's so many options, but just looks like they in no hurry, which means another long time before a fight. Depends really, like, when the WBC order it. Like, I wouldn't be at all. Like, Fury didn't take the beating that Wilder did. He sure as hell didn't have an easy fight, but he didn't take the beating that Wilder did. So I'd imagine you'd be looking at kind of March, April for Tyson Fury. Dylan White will be out of the ring about a year if we're talking March, April. Would that affect him? Probably not, because Dylan White is not someone who relies a lot on time and a boxing ability. So it wouldn't affect Dylan White too much. I like Tyson Fury and Dylan White. I really do. I just wonder, where will they do that? Will they do it in the UK or will they do it in the US? Tyson Fury doesn't seem to want to fight in the UK anymore. I think obviously for several reasons. But I think that fight's massive in the UK. I think that fight in the UK is a stadium filler. Like Old Trafford, easily. Because Dylan White is known in the... Some people have been saying the ticket sales for this fight, Otto Wallin versus Dylan White, are not great. That's kind of why I'm thinking, would Eddie Hearn put it on? Because if it's not great for Dylan White, Otto Wallin, But Chantel Cameron and Mary McGee is the main event. You really think that's going to do much better? It's not. So, I don't know. It's a weird one. But Fury, White, man, that's a great fight. I hope we get that next. And I'd say that's the reason why Dylan White pulled out injured personally. Like, I mean, I don't know, maybe he is legitimately injured, but it just, this has happened in boxing before. It's just, I don't know. And if Dylan White needed more time to recover, why didn't he just do what everyone else did? You know what I'm referring to there. TF, hope all is well. How's it going, G-Man? Man, it's going brilliant. I'm being safe, as the t-shirt says. And Nordic Warrior, shout out to Nordic Warrior every time. Dave Allen is an attention-seeking narcissist, not even worth talking about. Yeah, simple as. I think that cult following went to his head. I think now he's thinking he's, the you know what, and trying to impress his missus. Shout out to Joe Stunner Boxing, good channel as well. Joe's got about 40-something subs. So it's really hard to, because I normally would highlight the comment and then say, look, there's the name. But for these guys, Blue Collar Sport TV, that's just the name of the channel. Joe Stunner Boxing, that's the name of his channel. Unrivaled Boxing, Talking News, and Punch Perfect Box, that's the name of their channels. You type in YouTube, it comes straight away. All great lads, all great channels. Alan Cheeseman and Egan are all fighters I worry about. Those Fair Stick Miles are racking up. Yeah, Cheeseman's the one out of those three who I'm amazed at, because they've all had very hard fights. They've all been stopped. They've all had beatings. Cheeseman is the one who seems to just, it doesn't seem to affect him. I'm sure it is. Maybe, in the head, it's maybe affected him in terms of the brain. But when you see him in the ring, he doesn't seem affected. Like, for a fighter who's had such a hard career, and he's been around for years, he's not really slowed down, hasn't he? Not like, you've never seen, apart from the Liam Smith fight, but that was levels above. Apart from the Liam Smith fight, you've never really seen Egerton really look like a shot fighter. He always seems to have something in the tank. I mean, even his last fight, you'd expect him to be probably knackered at that rate, but he's not. He seems to still have plenty in the tank, which is bizarre, with the way he fights, the style, because that style would go in sparring as well. It's weird, but look, I don't know how he does it, but he managed to do it. G-Man, I've come into the chat off the piss. How's it going? Shouldn't be this drunk. Yeah, you can tell the spelling is off way all there. Shouldn't be this drunk during the week, but I needed it. LOL. Man. Big up to Byron Newton. Or is it? Yeah, it is Byron Newton. Even to George C, and the G-Man in the chat. Alan Babbage top of the card. Nordic, I don't think, would you? Alan Babbage top of the card against Eric Molina? Jesus Christ. I think it's fair to say DAZN it's not going the way we kind of envisioned, isn't it now? I think we all kind of thought DAZN will be a little bit better than it is now, or be in a better place now than it is. The Manchester card was good. Is it Sheffield? Sheffield card is not great. There's no fights announced for Parker, Chisora, but probably Campbell Hatton and probably Conor Benn against, a faded Chris Algieri or someone like that. It's not really, I think, did we maybe, I don't want to defend Sky, because I thought some of the stuff that they did in terms of the quality of their content wasn't great. But they're trying with Boxer. And Eddie Hearn and DAZN, it literally seems like Sky 2.0, but with a bit less quality, if that makes sense. It's really weird. I really did have high hopes for DAZN. And look, I'm still giving them time, because they're obviously transitioning straight onto DAZN, but it is a bit strange, isn't it? That, like, it's not looking good. That's what it was. It's not looking good for DAZN as it stands. Things can change, and I hope they do, but it's not really looking good for DAZN, isn't it? I'd say 100 miles clear of the McGuigans if I was AJ. Very dangerous people. All of Ireland know. Oh yeah, the McGuigans are just. The problem is Shane is a good trainer. He is a good trainer. I won't deny that. He's a very good trainer. But the McGuigans, yeah, I wouldn't go. Man, could you imagine Barry McGuigan? He would absolutely be foaming at the mouth seeing all that money. Could you imagine Barry McGuigan? Roddy Shields is a good trainer. I don't think he gets enough credit. I think that his fighters, like he's the Charlos, Lara, tried Tyson briefly. Ronnie Shields might be a good fit for AJ. There are different trainers, in America that maybe you'd say would fit him better, but I can't. Like, as far as I'm concerned, anything's better than Rob McCracken. The only thing I worry about Anthony Joshua, right, is this is assuming he leaves Rob McCracken. He hasn't done it yet. But let's just play devil's advocate here. Say he works with Ronnie Shields and he goes in a rematch with Alexander Usyk and he gets beaten again, potentially even worse than he did the first time. Or let's say Usyk really puts it on him and he stops AJ. What would AJ do then? Would he look? Because Ronnie Shields could bring out some good things in AJ. But if AJ, maybe against Usyk, he's just met his match from a stylistic point of view or from a skills point of view, etc. What if he loses against Usyk and he looks at Ronnie Shields and says, do you know what? Under Rob McCracken, I was able to, go the distance. I was able to do this. But under you, I've got stopped. I'm binning you. And maybe he'll go back to Rob McCracken because maybe that's just the way AJ could look at it. I don't know. Maybe that's reading too much into it, but you never know. Is Babbage headlining? I'm seeing people in the chat here saying Babbage is headlining. Is he actually headlining? I mean, nah. Ugh. If they did it they should really move it to the copper box. It'd be better because it wouldn't look as bad. Like if you've the O2 and you've hardly any seats sold, it'd be probably better to move it to the copper box. Can you see a court case between? Well, they're going to call the mandatory, so I think that situation's going to go. That situation's going to go. Big up to Big Boys Boxer. Big up to Jono. What's up, G, in the chat? Hope you're all well. Man, I'm good, man. Was Otto Valine used as a decoy? And Dylan goes, quack. I said at the start, I think they genuinely probably did intend on fighting Otto Valine. I reckon they maybe thought that how long would it be before they get their title shot, in which case maybe the WBC, they'll just say, do you know what, they're going to play with us, they're going to mess around with us, so we're just going to do our own thing. Maybe that's what they did, maybe that's what they were thinking. And then when the WBC announced that they were going to call the mandatory, it was a case of, oh, we better get our act together, we better go for the Fury fight straight away instead of taking a risky fight in between. If they had signed to fight Jermaine Franklin or Chris Arreola, would Dylan White have got a shoulder injury? Hard to say, but I have my doubts. I agree, tactical to pull Dylan White. But it's not the first. Well, he wouldn't be the first. He wouldn't be the first. I'm convinced that one day Fury's years of bad living are going to catch up with him. Might be the night Dylan White happens in the opposing corner. I agree with you there, mate. I do think that will happen because how could it not? Tyson Fury, it's crazy, right? Tyson Fury did look a bit out of shape. He looked out of shape. He didn't look in great shape for the Wilder trilogy fight. And before that, we saw the images like him and Morecambe where he didn't look in great shape. By his standards, that's not bad. Like, he's ballooned way worse than that. And I don't think any fighter can do that. I mean, Carl Frampton. I know Carl Frampton is in one of the lighter weights, and they do tend to age quicker in the lighter weights than they do in the heavier weights. But Carl Frampton could balloon up a bit in between fights. He could. And look at him. He was pretty much done. He was pretty much done in 2017. So it does catch up. He didn't balloon to anything like what Fury does. But still, the athletes who live the cleanest life, who are consummate professionals. I mean, look at Canelo. He's been a top pro for a decade. Have you ever seen? I've never seen Canelo out of shape. Consummate professional. They'll squeeze another fight on maybe Jez Smith to return quickly. I can't see Jez Smith after that fight on the weekend going in quickly. No way, man. That was a tough fight. They won't put him on anytime soon. No way. Oscar Rivas, southpaw, fought Dylan White. Is Oscar Rivas not orthodox? I'm pretty sure Rivas is orthodox. I'm pretty sure he is anyway. Someone wants to correct me on that if he's wrong, but I'm nearly sure Rivas, I'm sure he jabs with his left hand, in which case that would make him orthodox. I'm sure he does. Why have Matt Troom not confirmed it yet? Maybe they're trying to salvage the card before they do anything. I just can't see that card being salvaged. See, this is the thing, right? If you put on a really, really good undercard, maybe you could salvage it. Do you remember when Frank Buglioni fought Craig Richards? Do you remember that card in the O2? That card wasn't the strongest, But bear in mind, do you remember what the main event of that card was meant to be? It was meant to be Dylan White versus Marius Vac. That was in 2017. That was the main event. Dylan White versus Marius Vac. That was what was meant to happen. Dylan White pulled out. The undercard Eddie Hearn at the time felt was strong enough that they could have kept it, and that was going to be on Standard Sky, by the way. Eddie Hearn kept the undercard, so instead of Buglioni being the co-main event, he was the main event. Now, that didn't look good because the O2 was literally, they cut off loads of the O2 and you only had a small little section with fans. That didn't look good. That's why I'm saying if Eddie Hearn insists on keeping it, he should probably move it to the copper box, because at least it won't look as bad if it's not full. You know, I don't know how viable that is. Maybe there's something under the copper box, I don't know, but that's what he should do. If he's insisting on keeping it going, bang that show to the copper box. I would do that. Because it's just, to me, it's just, and like Frank Warren, you know what he's like? He'd have a field day. Frankie boy would have a field day if Eddie Hearn. Look at that. Do me a favour. Couldn't even sell the O2. Look, it's embarrassing. Do me a favour. Bob Arum said Fury versus White makes more revenue in Vegas. Does the site feed trump having out? Oh man. It probably does, to be honest. Like, if a site fee is willing to put up X amount of money, right, and you know you can charge X amount of money for the tickets in Vegas, and you'll make double what you would have made in London, in Manchester, then yeah, I can see why they do it. But I don't know, maybe just a selfish fan, you want it on at a normal time and you want to see the atmosphere in the UK. But look, we'll wait and see. The way we all backed Dave Allen at one point, to be exact, he was likeable, but it's worn him down to 10. Yeah, like in 2017, after the Luis Ortiz fight, I'll admit, like, I actually quite liked Dave Allen. I thought he was a real blue-collar guy. I thought that, he seemed likeable to me. There just seemed something about him that was likeable. But the more his career has gone on, and gone on, and gone on, the way he plays that victim, I've never been one for that. There are some people who are genuine victims, and that's all well and good. But when you're turning up out of shape, and then you're saying you don't get opportunities, what, mate? Or you're taking fights on short notice, and you're not in shape, that's your fault. You're not the victim for that. That's your fault. As Marco Pierre White said about Gordon Ramsay when he made him cry, that was his choice to cry. And that's your choice to be out of shape, mate. Sorry, but it is. No one else to blame. I think Cheeseman might have reached his tipping point. Once you put a serious dent, yeah, I agree with you. No, mate, you're saying I hope I'm wrong. I don't think you are. I think Cheeseman's already alluded or hinted at the fact that he may be calling it a day at this point. That knockout, how do you come back from that? That's one of them that would dent your chin, would dent your confidence moving forward. I like Ted Cheeseman, I really do. He seems like a cool guy, but I can't see him coming back. And if he does, that knockout defeat, that's going to haunt him. And Cheeseman's had a hard career. He has. And the funny thing is, I remember his fight with Carson Jones all them years ago, and he actually boxed quite well in that fight. And it kind of makes you think, this kid can box when he wants to, but he just chooses not to. He gets into these wars. I mean, when's the last easy fight he had? When you think about it, he had, Arsenio Bife is probably the last fight he had that was somewhat easy-ish, because he won that comfortably. But he had the loss to Garcia. He got hit loads in that fight. Real tough fight with Conway. He won that fight. He did. Had the Scott Fitzgerald fight. That was a tough fight. Had the Cheeseman fight. That was tough. JJ Metcalf. That was a great fight, but very tough. And now this. It's not been an easy career. DAZN woke box tickers. If Eddie Hearn called Jonathan Rice to replace Dylan White, I bet it would be a decent fight too. Yeah, Jonathan Rice is a decent. What would I call him? He's better to me than a journeyman, but what would you call him? Would you call him one of these kind of gatekeeper types at this stage? Because he's definitely not a journeyman, Jonathan Rice. He is a good fighter, but he's definitely not going to be causing most of the big heavyweights trouble. Although we got that win over, and his name, I can't think of his name now, Michael Coffey. I thought Michael Coffey was looking good at the top going into the fight. So when he lost, I was like, damn, that was a surprise. I'd scrap that card definitely. A few teething problems with the zone. Wouldn't mind seeing Wallin versus Hunter at some point. That's a good fight, actually. That's a very good fight. It's a very interesting fight. If I look at that fight stylistically, probably favour Michael Hunter just with the speed. But that's an interesting little scrap, actually. It's a very interesting fight, actually. That loaded glove stuff was, that loaded gloves. You see, the loaded gloves thing, the whole gloves, someone actually commented on one of my videos and asked me to do a talk on gloves. And maybe I will, because I've got lots of gloves still here. But the whole loaded gloves thing and the glove being deformed, that is what happens genuinely with horsehair gloves. They do deform. Like, look at Alexander Povetkin. When he wore horsehair gloves against Michael Hunter, looked deformed. Most horsehair gloves deform because foam will stay solid, so it'll stay in one place. Horsehair tends to move around. So after some stage in a fight, a glove will look deformed. A lot of people don't know that. And, when the average fan who doesn't know anything about boxing gloves, because I've had loads of people, just when I'm going out with the lads, well, I've seen this video and Fury's glove did look deformed. Like, it's horsehair in that glove. What? Is it not foam? No, it's not foam. Those Everlast gloves are made of horsehair. So it will look deformed. Like any horsehair glove will. I mean, if you even go on Everlast website, if you look at the MX gloves, the fight gloves, you can instantly tell it's horsehair because it doesn't look the same. Like, you look at a power lock and it just looks flat and even. Even on the website, the MX glove looks a little bit deformed because primarily horsehair. That's what happens with a horsehair glove. It moves around. In the 1970s, you would often see fighters, when they would go into the ring, they'd be doing like that with their gloves because you'd be trying to actually move the horsehair while it's in your hand. So there's less protection over, we'll say, like the major part of your knuckles, so you can inflict more damage. You often saw Mike Tyson do it when he was in his prime, but they were foam gloves. If you're trying to break the foam tends to stay. Like, if you get like a Grant or a Fly, maybe not really a Fly. A Fly is a bit softer foam, but if you get a Grant, tends to be a rival. The sparring gloves certainly. I don't know about the fight, but I think the fight gloves do have a bit of horsehair in them. But certainly, if you get a Grant, it's very dense foam. So it's very hard. So it's very hard to break that foam down. But also means if you get a crack of it, you'll feel it. It might not be a horsehair glove, but it will look after your hands a little bit more. But the foam, at least when I wore it, was a lot harder. So when you felt it, it was like boom, and it wasn't moving. If you get like a Fly, certainly now Fly have changed their gloves over the years, but the Fly gloves I have, the foam is quite soft, right? So it's not as soft as a Winning glove. They're really soft. I don't like them. Even the training, they're not. I don't like Winning gloves, but they're very soft. The Fly isn't as soft, but it's still quite a soft glove. AJ needs to get rid of the hangers in his team, aka Skins. Yeah, he is. AKA Skins is eating off AJ. AKA Skins. Jesus Christ. Didn't Barry McGuigan? Yep. Yeah, he did. He did indeed. Barry McGuigan is not a stand-up guy. And most people that you'd be surprised, like most people in Ireland would say that about guys like Barry McGuigan and guys like Steve Collins. Hit the like, you slackers. Yes, if you could, please hit the like button as that phone just dies. So forgive me, I'm gonna have to start scrolling through the bloody comments because I was reading them all off there. G-Man, what are Cleto Reyes gloves like? Someone's asking me that question there. I just hope that mic doesn't get messed up. What are Cleto Reyes gloves like? I don't like them personally. I find the fit on the hand is very uncomfy. I find they're it's almost like a vice in your hand. They're very tight around the knuckles. And I don't have my hands aren't that big. Certainly by the size, compared to most of my hands would be quite small. I find them very hard to get your hand in. I find them very tight around the knuckle. I don't like Cleto Reyes gloves personally. Not a glove that I would recommend someone to buy. I think that a lot of people in the 90s used them. And, people saw Manny Pacquiao use them. I think he still used Cleto Reyes. I don't really understand why, because they're not a particularly comfy glove. I don't particularly find them, like an Everlast is better. The MX gloves have probably the same amount of horsehair in them. And they're more comfy. Now, the MX gloves, They're not the comfiest glove I've ever worn, it has to be said, but they certainly are a lot more comfortable, certainly in my opinion, than the Reyes. I don't particularly like the Reyes. Give me 1 sec. I want to just see how we looking. Perfect. I'm worried about the battery. I'm constantly worrying about that because I don't know. StreamYard drinks the battery, but I've got plenty of life, so we're good to go. We're good to go. What other chats we have? Let's have a look-see here. Interesting, we don't see the Wildettes analysing the horsehair gloves in the third fight comparison. Yeah, Wilder, I mean, like, look at the gloves Wilder had. He had Everlast MX gloves on in the third fight, and hence the reason why he hurt his hand, because Wilder used them early on in his career. What was a recurring theme? Hurt your hand, hurt your hand, hurt your hand, hurt your hand. It was after Areola. He stopped wearing MX gloves and he switched to Power Locks. Now, Power Locks, there's 3 brands of Everlast gloves. There's 3 types, I should say. There's the MX, which are the puncher glove. I think it's the Elite Pro is the next one. And that's kind of a mixture. And then you have the Power Lock. Power Lock is 100% foam. It's a bit like a Grant. They're good for your hands. That's what he's been using. That's what Wilde's primarily been using over the years, and he's not really had any issues with his hand as bad. He uses the Everlast MX gloves, lands a right hand on Fury. Yeah, he causes damage, but what happens? Hurts his right hand, because that's what happens. Like, people talk about puncher gloves. Is there such a thing? Like, oh, I want that glove. It's a puncher's glove. Define puncher's glove. You know, David Hay wore Grants, and he said early on in his career, he can't wear Reyes, because if he wears Reyes, he probably won't be able to hit as hard as he wants to, because although there's less padding in him, he's going to hurt his hand and smash his hand to pieces. So people need to be cognizant of the gloves they wear. You know, I always say, whatever glove you feel comfy in is the glove for you. It doesn't matter if Floyd Mayweather was wearing Grants and Anthony Joshua was wearing Rival. That doesn't mean you need to wear Grants or Rival. I'd put Grants on, I don't like them. I'd put Floyd gloves on, I love them. You know, it's whatever glove suits you. You know, I'm speaking to fighters here, not like most people who probably watch these aren't fighters, but whatever glove fits you and suits you. I remember interviewing Raven Chapman, she likes Rival. And I was like, well, I don't like Rival myself, but she wore it and she liked it. I'm a guy who likes the Fly gloves. They're better, from my opinion anyway. All right, let's have a look at this one. Joyce is very underrated, great chin and great stamina. Yeah, Joe Joyce is he's a tricky customer, because Joe Joyce is natural at his weight. So Joe Joyce at 100 or 260 pounds, he's not having to pump weights. He's not having to live on protein shakes. He's at that weight naturally. So Joe Joyce can happily walk around at that weight in good shape. He can maintain his stamina, great jab, great chin. Probably one of the most physically, like, he is sort of like, he's not as good, but he reminds you of a young George Foreman in a sense that he's just brute force, good chin, punching power. George Foreman's stamina in his prime wasn't great. Like, he went the distance a few times, but if you ever hear him, he went the distance, obviously before he fought Joe Frazier in a 10-rounder. And if you hear him in the interview after, he literally sounds like he's about ready to fall over. Like, he's breathing heavy even in the interview. So Foreman's stamina wasn't the greatest certainly in his prime, when he was training with Dick Sadler. When he got older, started training with Angelo Dundee, he started training with Gil Clancy. They trained with Gil Clancy in his prime. I think he trained with Gil Clancy for a bit. No, actually, he trained with, forget who he trained with originally his comeback, but he did start working with Angelo Dundee. But I know that he trained with Gil Clancy just before he retired the first time. And then, actually, funny enough, Gil Clancy was training Jerry Cooney for the George Foreman fight, when George Foreman blew him away in 2 rounds. And I think a lot of people said at that stage, they were like, George Foreman might be legit, because a lot of people, because Jerry Cooney was, I think, a year removed from the Michael Spinks fight, and he was still seen as a live contender to an extent, but he could bang, and George Foreman just blew him away. Cooney always had a poor chin, though. He never had the greatest punch resistance. It has to be said. G-Man, just wondering, what are your thoughts on Joe Joyce? His performances seem to defy logic, in the sense of him appearing slow, ponderous, and his punches looking telegraphed. Yeah, they do. But look at Joe Hanks. Look at the left hook he landed on Joe Hanks, and look at Joe Hanks's face from that left hook. Joe Joyce has tremendously heavy hands. He really does. He looks clunky. That's the thing about Joe Joyce. He just looks so clunky and awkward. Wait there a sec. Where the fuck? I'm right in the camera. What the fuck? Right now. He just looks so clunky. Like, I remember watching Joe Joyce, Daniel Dubois with my friends, and literally all my friends were like, why is this guy in the ring? I think Joe Joyce wore white shorts that night. They were like, why is this guy in white shorts fighting? He looks terrible. Like, he looks like a raw amateur or a raw novice. I'm like, that's how he always looks. That's how he always looks. There we go. So let's have a look at some more of these chats. It's not exactly the easiest doing it this way, but I like it. It's fun. I get to sit down and on my seat, and yeah, it's fun. I met Dave Allen a few years ago at the Doncaster show, and he didn't seem particularly friendly. Oh, maybe I caught him at a bad time. That's interesting. He does come across as for me, he comes across as someone who is probably different off camera than he is on camera. When he's on camera, he seems to do this kind of, I would say like an act almost, but I wonder why he is like off camera. Be interesting. Fearing the white in the US makes no sense because white isn't the name in America and they will compete with NBA, NFL. Yeah, that's exactly what I'm thinking. It's not like we're dealing with Deontay Wilder, who's known to an extent in the States. Andy Joshua is known to an extent in the States. Dylan White is not really known at all in America. I mean, he fought in America, however many years ago was it now? It was, I forget the guy he fought. He's meant to fight, who was he meant to fight? He meant to fight that guy from the 90s. Can't remember his name. Lennox Lewis beat him in 2 rounds. The American heavyweight, the big guy. Forget his name. But he was meant to fight him, and that never happened. But they put him in there with some other guy, Malcolm Tan, but he was meant to fight someone else, a 90s heavyweight contender. Lennox Lewis knocked out, forget his name. But that was the last one we fought in the US, and that was on the undercard of Crawford and Dongo, and way down the undercard. So he's not fought in the US since then. Yeah, his stock probably in the US isn't that high. That's why I don't understand why he wouldn't do it in the UK. You know, I mean, it'd be primarily Fury fans at that fight, I would imagine. At least they did it in the UK with the right marketing, you know, easily probably fit. And it's a homecoming. They'd sell that as a homecoming for Fury. Because Fury's only hasn't fought in the UK since Fury 3 years ago, probably be 4 years by the time they fight. Homecoming with WBC title against Dylan White. To me, that just makes logical sense. Frank Warren will be aching for that because he will probably have his business saved by having that. Because Queensbury haven't been doing the best for a while now. What else have we got here? Let's see. Michael Grant, thank you. I appreciate that. I couldn't think of his name. I knew who. Joyce has tutting power. Like being hit with a sack of cement rather than Deontay Wilder's power is more like being hit with a baseball bat. Yeah. Joe Joyce carries the power in every shot. I know Brian Jennings was saying, like when he was really like landing clean, he was like, this guy has serious power. Joe Joyce has like 2 sandbags in his hand. That's the best way to describe it. He just carries that big tutting power. Whereas Deontay Wilder, I'm sure there are people who get in there. Like Arthur Spilka was never hit clean by Deontay Wilder until the 9th round. And then he was knocked out cold. So he was saying that Wilder doesn't hit that hard. It's like, of course it doesn't hit that hard. Because you kind of nullified some of the power. His main power is in the right hand. He was never able to land with the right hand. But when he did, you weren't just knocked out. You were knocked out cold. So you didn't even know what hit you. So, of course, you probably think that, you know, Brian Jennings or Derek Chisora hits harder than Deontay Wilder because they've hit you repeatedly with hard shots, but Wilder's hit you with a shot that knocked you clean out. So you didn't even feel it. Did you see Fisheye's comment the other day? Tyson Fury sees Joe. Yeah, I did. Well, of course he'd say that, mate. Frank Warren, Joe Joyce, Tyson Fury, in-house, big money fight, sell it in the UK. Frank Warren is trying to, and do you know what the funny thing is, right? It's only now, since Joe Joyce beat Dubois, and you know, kind of is still. Has Joe Joyce hasn't fought since? No, he has. He's fought Takam. It's only really now Frank Warren is starting to talk good on Joe Joyce. Do you remember how nonchalant they were? Do you remember when Joe Joyce signed with Frank Warren and he was doing punditry for Dubois versus Gorman? And he'd done punditry for another fight. I think he'd done it for Tete as well. Do you remember Paul Dempsey and the BT Sports team? Do you remember how rude, this is the best way to describe it, they were towards Joe Joyce? They were talking to him like, you know, he was a piece of you-know-what. And I'm like, hang on, this is one of your fighters too. And they were so dismissive of him. And they were just bigging up Daniel Dubois the entire time. And it's changed now. Frank Warren, even after the fight, like Frank Warren, when Daniel Dubois lost, Frank Warren looked devastated. It's like, mate, this is in-house. It's not like Joe Joyce is going anywhere. It's not like he's just taking a title from you and he's going. It's in-house. So you've theoretically not lost anything. You know, both your guys won, but it was obvious like who Frank Warren was favouring. And now, since Joe Joyce has re-signed, you know, he's got a high ranking. Frank Warren is a little bit more happy to, you know, big up Joe Joyce, but yeah, it's been crazy. Remember when Wallin busted up Fury? I'm surprised nobody targeted the eye. Yeah, so am I, mate. So am I. I'm very surprised by that because, as far as I'm concerned, that eye will. I'd be very surprised, right, if someone targeted the eye and they landed some good jabs or a few shots. I'd be very surprised if the eye didn't reopen, because scar tissue never tends to properly heal. You know, I've said it several times. Look at Vitaly Klitschko against Kevin Johnson. Look at Vitaly Klitschko's face after the Kevin Johnson fight. Kevin was only really landing jabs in that fight. But the scars that were there, that were left from Lennox Lewis, and that was 7 years earlier, were still there all them years later. So I'd be very surprised. If Fury needed surgery on that, didn't he? I'd be very surprised if Fury ends up getting into a fight where someone targets the eye and it doesn't end up getting smashed to pieces again. I'd be very surprised. In fact, I'm amazed. I'd be amazed if that didn't happen. Where was that? Dempsey is no relation to Jack Dempsey, or is he discussion? No, man. No, he's no relation to Jack Dempsey. Dempsey is quite a common enough name, like last name. So, yeah, Paul Dempsey, he is a good host, I'll give him that, but he's no real relation. I'm sure he's not anyway to Jack Dempsey. Jack Dempsey, I think, had all daughters. I don't think he had any sons. I know he had kids. I think he had all daughters. So, I'm sure he's no relation to Jack Dempsey anyway. I can imagine. Good question here. Arthur versus Yarde. Your thoughts, G-Man? Yeah. It was weird, wasn't it? Did anyone see Tunde trying to cut in on Yarde and Yarde just telling him, no, stop? I'm wondering what's going on there. And Pat Barrett, Tunde. I'm getting intrigued about this. I wonder why they delayed it until December, because it's meant to happen early October. I think it was meant to follow on onto the Fury Wilder card. So I'm wondering what happened there. This fight, December 4th, I'm looking forward to it personally. All right, I think that Anthony Yarde, realistically, if both guys come and bring their A game, Anthony Yarde should win. He should win. I wonder in that first fight, where the demons from the Kovalev fight there, in a sense of him gassing, did he maybe think, do you know what, I'm doing just enough to win these rounds. I don't want to gas. I don't want to put it on him. And then maybe in the 12th round, he thought, you know what, I've still a bit left. It's the last round. Why don't I put it on? Because the minute Anthony Yarde did put it on Lyndon Arthur in that 12th round, so much success he had, you started to wonder, why didn't he do this 3-4 rounds ago? I think Anthony Yarde lost that fight more than Arthur's won it. So, realistically, Yarde should win this fight. I expect him to win. Would Lyndon Arthur's win it again shock me? No, he's already beaten him once. I'm sure he could do it again. I think that Yarde has skills. I think we look at Yarde and we look at Tunde specifically. I don't like Tunde, but you gotta remember certain things, right? Lyndon Arthur barely threw that right hand in that first fight. All right, a lot of people thought it was an injury, and Lyndon Arthur after said no, it wasn't injured. It was just hard to land it. So Anthony Yarde was able, with his movement, with his ability, to take the right hand away from Lyndon Arthur's. All right, for someone with very few amateurs to be in there with someone who's as good as Lyndon Arthur, that's pretty impressive. So we have to say Anthony Yarde, he is talented. He does have good boxing ability. He does have good fundamentals taught to him. You have to big up Tunde for that. The problem is that Tunde likes to big himself up more than Anthony, and I think someone said, I think it was on Hatman's Discord, that Tunde, because he's Yarde's manager, I think he's his manager anyway, because he's his trainer, and because he's in charge of the PR, he gets something like 45% of all Yarde's purses. That is crazy. That is crazy if he's getting that much. Seriously, that is if he's getting that much, man, that is crazy. Yeah, Queensbury are overdue, or over 6 million in the hole. Oh boy, that's mental. That is crazy. How is that? Like, how does Frank Warren keep that place going? And like, I'll read that now in a sec, but I gotta look at some of the decisions he makes. Like, realistically, why would you put on a card on the same night as the Manchester card that the DAZN had, when you know it's a significantly better card? Why would you put that on? Because I'm sure that Birmingham card made zip. I'm sure he probably paid Callum Johnson more than the card was made, than the card was worth. It's crazy. I'm probably missing loads of chats here. Sorry, people, if I am missing them. It's just hard to read them like this. Do you know the old fella Tommy Dix? Yeah, he's a legend, that lad. He is a legend. I like him. I think he used to train Shane Neary back in the day, or he was certainly in the Shane Neary team. He's been talking about Lyndon Arts for years, saying he beats all of the light heavyweights in the UK. He's he is. Tommy Dix is very switched on about boxing, and he's a student of the game. Although he's an old man now, I think he's in his 80s. But there was an interview I seen with him and Peter Fury, where he was down in the gym, and in Peter Fury's gym, and you can just tell that this is a man who just loves boxing and just gets it, because he was looking at what Peter was doing with Huey. I think he'd Savannah Marshall down there as well, and he was saying that what he saw there was like, for him, Tommy Dix, it was like being at a great dinner, and seeing everything was like the main course and the dessert. Seeing how Peter Fury treats his fighters, how he trains them, how he talks over drills, techniques and stuff. He knows his boxing. So if he's bigging up Lyndon Arter, I would take some credit with that. This isn't like someone like Colin Hart or someone like that who really doesn't know anything about boxing, even though they've covered it. Tommy Dix knows the sport. He's been around for God knows how long. Very insightful man is Tommy Dix. Dix, if I'm saying it right, Dixon or Dix. Tunde is really annoying. He is indeed. Yarde just signed with Barry McGuigan to get a bit more of his own money. Oh, jeez. Shane McGuigan wouldn't be a bad shout for Anthony Yarde, to be fair, actually, when I think about it stylistically. I think stylistically, I know it's going to sound weird, but I think stylistically, when I look at Anthony Yarde, I think Adam Boot might be a good little fit for him. Because Adam Boot is good with that ambush style, and I think that's a style that Yarde would do well with. I think that psychologically, Adam Boot is very good. He likes athletic fighters, as we've seen. So maybe Adam Boot will be a good fit for Anthony Yarde moving forward. Adam Boot, Shane McGuigan. Saying that, we thought he would leave Tunde at the start of this year, because remember he was saying he was having big changes, and a lot of people at the time, I certainly felt, I was like, he's gonna leave Tunde. He's finally gonna go his separate way and leave Tunde. He didn't. The rumor mill was also that he was going to Matchroom, which I could kind of see, but I didn't think it would happen. I knew he'd make more money with Matchroom, certainly, but I just thought he'd stay loyal to Fish Eyes. Yarde was just shouting at Tunde in the press conference. He is probably tired of Tunde. I'm seeing them splitting. Yeah, I think Tunde is like one of them guys who's just looking for, he's starved for attention. He's like, how old is Tunde? He's got to be in his 40s or 50s, and the way he behaves like someone in his teens or something like that. It's just really weird. I've seen people like Tunde before, but it's really weird when you see like a man that age, and he's just the way he talks, and it's very hard to get through a Tunde interview. That's what I will say. It's extremely hard, because I don't know, man. He just. The thing about Tunde, I reckon there's a decent trainer in terms of teaching your fighter fundamentals. Maybe in terms of down the long run at world level, I think we kind of saw that against Kovalev. He kind of ran out with some ideas, but as a fighter, he just does. As a man, he just seems to be someone who, like, I wouldn't want to be around Tunde personally. He's not someone I would really want in my company, to be honest with you. Still can't believe Pat Barrett didn't win a world title. Saw him several times during his career. He was amazing. Out of the ring, activities took over. Yeah, Pat Barrett is cool, and Pat Barrett comes across as a likable enough character as well. So big up to Pat Barrett every time. And he seems like, who does he have? He has obviously Lyndon Archer. And I'm starting to. He had other fighters as well. Only recently fought. I just can't think of which one it was. So that's my bad. I can't think of either one. Shouldn't Wilder face Trevor Bryan next? I reckon they're going to try and get Dubois in there with Trevor Bryan. I reckon that's the plan for Dubois. They're probably going to want to get in that world title shot as quick as they can. Well, regular title shot as quick as they can. So I reckon that's probably the plan for Daniel Dubois, for him to fight Trevor Bryan. If Wilder did it, I mean, Wilder would beat Trevor Bryan, I reckon, personally, pretty easily. Even if Wilder is 60% of what he was, should still be enough to beat Trevor Bryan, personally, I think. I wonder, will we see Dubois on the Tommy Fury Jake Paul card? Because they're actually saying that card could happen on the 18th of December. They're talking about doing Jake Paul, Tommy Fury. I'd watch it. I'm just gonna say I'd watch it. I would genuinely. Like, I know somebody might be, gee, really? I don't know why. I would watch it. Jake Paul versus Tommy Fury. I don't know why. I've never seen any of Jake Paul's fights live, but that Tommy Fury fight, for some reason, for some reason, to me, it seems good, like that's going to be entertaining. They're saying the 18th of December. I'd watch it. I'd stay up and watch it. I don't know why. It just, something about that just kind of is like, might be entertaining. Might be entertaining. Will Eddie Hearn show proof of Dylan White's injury? I doubt it, mate. I doubt it very much. Do you have Stephen Robinson in your radar? You think he's going to be a threat for the top 10 heavyweights someday? I need to have a look at him, mate, because I'll be frank, I've not really heard the name Stephen Robinson. Maybe I have and I've just not looked him up, but if you want to give me some more info, feel free to pop it in the chat and elaborate more on him, because I've not really heard the name Stephen Robinson. It doesn't ring a bell, mate, to be 100% honest with you. Looks like Dylan White has an injury. Joe Joyce should put his hand and offer to replace. Not sure if Eddie would let that fight happen. But see, Joe Joyce is a Queensbury fighter, mate, so I'm not sure how viable that would be, because, like I said, he's a Queensbury fighter. Would Eddie Hearn or would Frank Warren be willing to let Joe Joyce go over and fight on the zone and risk losing? Because Joe Joyce, you don't know how he'd do against someone like a southpaw like Otto Wallin. You'd imagine Joe Joyce would be able to get through that. Joe Joyce is just, Joe Joyce, you know what Joe Joyce is like. But would Frank Warren be willing to let Joe Joyce do that? I doubt that very much. Hit the like button. How much battery do I have? 50%. Grand. I thought it'd be a lot worse than this, to be honest with you, in terms of this. What else we got here? Florian Marku is a gem in the rough. Yeah, Florian Marku is not. Oh, I know who he's on about now, that USSR guy. Yeah, I seen him. I had to think there I just seen a comment come in about, I seen the guy the other night. Yeah, all right. He wasn't in there with much. Florian Marku was a gem. Florian Marku was a fighter I want to keep my eye on, because the more I see him, the more he looks better. That's the best way I describe him. The more I see of Marku, the more he looks better. So I'll keep my eye on Florian Marku, definitely. And he's got such a big. I've never seen anything like it. He's got such a fighter who's not even had 10 fights. He's got a massive fan base over there in Albania, and I mean they flock to Florian Marku. They really do. They flock to that guy. They love that guy. Like he was filling out the York Hall in 6 rounders. So he obviously, I don't know what, did he do something, did he win something in Albania or something for him to get this kind of following? Because I wasn't aware of Florian Marco until he turned pro, like being some elite amateur. I know he was a kickboxer or something, but it's crazy. It's crazy. What big baby Miller doing? You mean Big Farmer? That's what we're going to call him. We don't call him that on this. Jared Anderson is Big Baby. He's Big Farmer. And where is he ranked? Should he fight Fury or AJ? Well, I've seen clips of Big Farmer training, and he looks massive. Now, he's always looked big. His last fight was 3 years ago. He was 315 pounds. But I kid you not, people, he's pushing 350. Has to. He looked massive. Like, I was looking at pictures of him and training clips of him a couple of years ago, and he was 300 pounds at that time. And he looks way bigger now. Way bigger. I wonder were they testing him at all during the time? Because honestly, like, he's due to come off the suspension any time now. It shouldn't be too long. And he can come back and fight. Do I agree with that? No. But will I watch him? Yeah, I will. I like watching him fight. Be interesting to see what he looks like. Would I be shocked if he gets popped again? Of course not. I expect him to get popped again. You know, this isn't someone who's discreet at all about what he's doing. You know, and he's using, it's not like he's being caught with small kind of things. It's not like you could say, right, he's using a pre-workout that happens to have a banned substance in it. It's not like that. He's using serious stuff, like human growth hormone, Doradol, what was it, something else, and it's crazy stuff. Some of it has to be physically injected. So, man, he is using, oh, man, he's juiced up to the eyeball. Muscle turning into fat. Possibly. He did have a kind of a high fat to muscle ratio anyway, but man, he is looking massive. Big Farmer, 315 pounds of it. It's more than that, man. I wouldn't, if he fights before the end of the year, seriously, don't be surprised if he steps on the scale and we're seeing 350. He looked a bit, man, I'm kidding you not, he looked honestly about 350. He looked about 350 when I seen him in them clips. I was like, whoa. Now, he's not, I knew he was big, but I was like, whoa, he is big. By his standards, big. Love this. Shout out. Be safe. If Miller wasn't banned for life, then no one will be. Yeah, I mean, like, the mic fell. I hope that didn't mess up the sound. That's the thing about this. I need to really be more. I might use the headphones in future because I have another pair that I use for this. I don't want to mess up the sound. I hope that's not too bad. But yeah, if Miller didn't get banned for all he did, no one else will. I mean, they had a perfect chance to make an example out of Jarrell Miller, and they didn't. So, it is what it is, mate. It is what it is. They had a chance to make an example of him. They didn't. They literally didn't do anything. They gave him a little slap on the wrist. You know, you have a year out of the ring, and you think about what you did, and you're straight back in. And I wonder, was he even being drug tested? You know, I mean, surely they should have, if they had any of these sanctioned bodies had any common sense, they would say, right, we're going to give him a ban. We're going to keep drug testing you, so you're not using anything while you're on your ban. But that's logic. You know, most of these governing bodies don't have that, unfortunately. I would hope that's what they do, but I would look. Jarrell Miller, I'm waiting for the next time he gets popped, and I don't mean that as in I'm very like, oh, I'm done praying for his downfall. No, but I just know it's going to happen. His track record, his tree is known by its fruits. His track record is there for all to see. He's going to do it again. He's been popped in kickboxing, twice in boxing, and as I said, it's not for small substances. These are big substances, mate. Big. Some of them have to be injected. He is getting popped again sooner or later, definitely. Tree is known by its fruits. How do you get a 6'4", 315-pound man with the kind of endurance of that? It just doesn't happen. It's just not. It can't happen. Sullivan said on the Boxing Voice, all mandatories will be announced in the next WBC convention in November. So yeah, basically we're getting Dylan White versus Tyson Fury next, which is grand. I don't mind that fight. It's a good fight. It's a good fight. In terms of other mandatories, what other mandatories are there? Like they're doing Beterbiev versus Brown. It's a good fight. I'm all for that fight. What else are they going to do then? I'm just trying to think of the other mandatories they have going. They won't call one for Canelo probably. They'll probably wait until he's undisputed or something like that, or whatever. But yeah, the way boxing is, we've got some hopefully we have some good fights coming up soon. That's the one thing I'm hoping for, that we get some good fights. But I've just gone over an hour. I'm gonna leave it here. 68 in the chat. If you could smash the like button, your boy, I'd much appreciate that. The reason I'm ending it here, right, is this hasn't been the easiest doing it like this. I normally do the streams with the laptop, but this way it's a bit more, you get to see my reaction, and I'm enjoying it, but it's a bit fiddly, and I don't know how well. I know once you go past 50 it drinks the battery, so I'm going to leave it here. Hope you enjoyed it. I'm going to record a video about my thoughts on Dylan White. It's going to go up in the morning, and I'll leave you with that. So I just big up to everyone in the chat. I normally would highlight your chats and channels and stuff like that, but it's as you can see, it's quite difficult. I'm the reach all the way over here. I don't want to do that. So for now, lads and lassies, hope you all have a good evening. To everyone in the chat, hope you enjoyed it. It's good fun doing it like this. I need to really, I need to try and make this a bit easier, you know, with mics and stuff like that, because I'm going to keep doing it like this in the future, because it's just easier. It's just more, no, it's not easier. It's more fun being on camera than doing the Ainsley avatar. But I need to find out how to make this easier. But for now, lads and lassies, I'm going to leave you with that. I hope you all enjoyed it. Everyone in the chat, peace and love. Big up. Peace.